This lesson is from the 7th grade Houghton Mifflin English book. It is about direct quotations and goes with pages 241 to 243 in the student textbook. Capitalize the first word of a quotation. Lucia inquired, "What type of heron is that?" Well, this is the sentence that she's actually saying, so we start it with a capital letter. If the second part of a divided quotation continues the original sentence, begin it with a small or lowercase letter. If it begins a new sentence, use a capital letter. Some birds eat hundreds of insects a day. That's the whole sentence, so we don't need to capitalize eat. Pintail ducks don't. They eat snails. Two separate sentences, so that one gets capitalized. Use a comma outside the quotation marks at the beginning of a quotation and inside the quotation marks at the end of a quotation. So Cher said, comma, on the outside, and then you have your quote, "The cowbird does not raise its own young. It lays its eggs in other birds' nests, comma, on the inside," Tom added. So if it's the person first, the comma goes on the outside. If it's the quote first, the comma goes on the inside. So let's try this. Ignore these up here. These are for the kids. I'm going to use the marker. It's just easier. And I'm going to underline what is being said. It makes it a lot easier to see. Janet asked, "Don't birds recognize each other by their feathers?" So I'm going to underline, "Don't birds recognize each other by their feathers?" because that's what she's saying. I need to capitalize it because it's what she's saying. Separate it with a comma and put it in quotes. The question mark goes inside of the quotations because "don't birds recognize each other by their feathers" is a question. "Feathers have other purposes too," said John. "They keep birds warm." These are two separate sentences, so "they" needs to be capitalized. We need to separate the quote from John and put quotation marks. Ken said that cold winter nights are hard on birds. When it says "said that," that's not a direct quote, so there will be no quotation marks on this sentence. "Small birds," added Janet, "can lose a third of their body weight." She's actually saying small birds can lose a third of their body weight. We need to set it off with commas, and we need to quote it. This one goes on the inside, that one goes on the outside. "Winter can be hard on birds, so many people put out food for them. Sunflower seeds are a good choice," explained Ken. This whole thing is what he's saying. We need to separate it with a comma. You never put a period here. Never. It's always a comma, a question mark, or an exclamation point. And then we set it off with quotations. Let's try some more. "Aren't golden plovers amazing birds?" We need a question mark because that is a question. Quote, asked Fett. New quote, "They fly south without their young." Colin added, comma, quote, capital letter. "The young plovers leave several weeks later. Their instincts are awesome," end quote. New quote, "It's an over 2,000-mile trip. They've never flown the route before, but somehow they can navigate," comma, quote, Fett explained. "Do the young plovers ever find their parents?" Question mark, quote, asked Leah. There's nothing wrong with that. "Rosa said that the young birds eventually find the adults." Said that tells me there's no quotes in this sentence. "They do, comma, quote, said Fett, comma, quote, and you could learn from them, then maybe you wouldn't get lost so often." Colin said, quote, "I think the flight of the plovers is one of the most amazing journeys made by animals," end quote.